Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for joining us.
And folks, we just want to let you know this is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. This is Sunshine Week for the state of Florida, and we at Santa Rosa Week TV certainly do everything we can to work towards open government meetings and open records.
Open records.
And so this is a week, it has a very interesting history of this. Barbara Peterson is the head person for the Florida's First Amendment Foundation. That's FloridaFAF.org. And you know, she's been at this for years and years and years. And a few years back, they said, well, let's pick a day and call it Sunshine Day, and to have a heightened awareness across the state of Florida. And interestingly enough, it took off.
Spread.
Other states,
yeah.
And even though Florida has very good, a very strong sunshine law, probably the best in the nation, other states piggybacked on that, and now for the state of Florida, we have a whole week dedicated in March of each year for Sunshine Week.
And the media, and I think the strange part is that this was started by the media in Florida. I mean,
right.
They were, and yet if you look at what the media, I mean, does, it's taken us 8 years to get them to report on any of the sunshine violations and open records violations that they were well aware of in this area.
That was actually discussed. The event this year was in Orlando, Florida, so myself and Alan Isaacson, we traveled down there, and you know, some college students, some lawyers, people with interest. There was some folks from the community that had actually that attended the event.
And the National First Amendment Foundation recognized you and Alan for the work that you've done.
The Sunlight Foundation,
yes.
They singled us out as one of their latest groups that had a great impact to help, and I was very honored by that. You can go to Santa Rosa Speaks.com, and it's posted on there, the whole article. But the Sunlight Foundation is a Washington D.C. based organization. They look at all 50 states, and you know, they looked at our body of work over the last 6 years, and the fact that we had brought economic development into the sunshine, and that they have open meetings and open records, and some of the other stuff that we had worked on. Hey, you know, look, and I mean, Alan and I, we kid about it. You know, one of the things that he came up with, he said, well, now we're not just naysayers anymore, we're nationally recognized naysayers. But it was a nice honor. Matter of fact, while we were at the event, the Sunlight Foundation had sent Barbara Peterson an email to let her know that the story was active on there. So it was, you know, I don't need a lot of pats on the back. You know, when I started this journey, it was a journey. All I've ever asked for is good government, and an ethical government, and a moral government, and one that allows the citizens to see what they're doing. But
you don't have that unless you have an open government.
Right. It was nice to be recognized, especially at that level. I mean, you know, Washington D.C. there was. And folks, if you go to the sunlightfoundation.com website, you'll see a lot of other people from other states that just have folks that are very passionate about it in their communities. They took it upon themselves, and you know, look, there's certainly no pay involved in this. Matter of fact, a lot of dollars leave my pocket for this, but it's the right thing to do. And
there's no pay, and you're going to be ridiculed to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah,
and you've had some professional repercussions we won't get into.
Sure, but you know, we've had a good impact. It was nice to be recognized, and you know, one of the messages, and folks, you're watching this TV, look, I'm always looking for new warriors to join this battle. I'm telling you, and you know, and Deborah's been 100% right on the economic development issue. You stop them from doing one way that was a violation of the Sunshine Law, they immediately start looking for new ways to circumvent the system. And what it takes is you have to stay vigilant at all times to watch what is going on. You know, the bottom line with me, it's our tax dollars, it's our government. Although there are some elected officials that don't feel a citizen ought to have any input, and there are some elected officials that will get very ugly and demonstrative towards citizens. We need to make sure, you know, those folks that we elect, it's a representative democracy. And whether it be the city council, or whether it be the county commissioner, or whether it be our representatives in Tallahassee, Florida, they need to humble themselves for the job that they've been elected to. Yeah. And there are times where they need to be reminded of that.
Well, and it's also important to remember that the media is not going to do the job. They're too far gone.
Absolutely.
They're not going to do it. They're not interested. They get a lot of advertising dollars and have cushy jobs and all that other good stuff. And they're not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So if the regular old public don't step up and keep an eye on it, no, but the fourth estate's gone.
It's up to us, folks. Look, we need warriors in this battle. You have to stay on top of it. You have to watch it. You have to ask the hard questions. And sometimes folks take offense to that, but the bottom line with me is it's my tax dollars, it's my government, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the citizens have their right to peaceably assemble for a redress of their grievances, and the access to the records, as you've seen us talk about with the emails and things that we've gone through. There was some real questionable actions taken by a great many people, and so it's very important. So the rest of the show is going to be the Sunshine event representing Sunshine Week in Orlando, Florida, and we hope you enjoy it. I hope you would take the time to look at the First Amendment webpage, floridafaf.com. If you have a few dollars, make a donation, because folks, they are out there day in and day out battling Tallahassee, battling the commissions, battling the city council across the state of Florida. And some of these court cases, it takes a lot of money. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for watching. Good night.
My name is Jerry Cooey, and first of all, I have to thank Mrs. Cooey, because she puts up with a lot of stuff that goes on at my house, and I am happy to have my partner in crime here, Alan Isaacson. It was a big week for us, because just a few days ago we were just simple naysayers. And now that the Sunlight Foundation has recognized us, we are nationally recognized naysayers. So we're hopefully we continue to take this. This is one of my passions. My passion started in about 91, and my county's budget was $11 million, and I was the sole person standing there yelling and screaming, "This is ridiculous, you're not spending my money right." Well, when it got to $111 million, I started drawing a crowd a little bit, and then Alan showed up, and we started digging into the government. Now, and I don't know where everybody's at in this, so I'll make it quick. Custodian of records. If you don't know who the custodian of records is, go find out who that is. And they'll play a few games with you on that one. You know, walk in there and just ask them, smile on your face. One thing that I always say is nobody ever remembers when I was nice. I'm always nice the first couple passes, but after that, it's guerrilla for me. I mean, I'm going for it. But find out the custodian of records. Pick a subject. Take a CD, DVD down there and say, all 5 county commissioners last 6 months. That's what Alan and I did. And I want to show you some of the results of that trip down email lane here and a few newspaper headlines. But study those emails. They're going to push back on you on that also. And I've got some business cards with me. If you need some help, let me know. I love a fresh fight. We got enough fight on our hand in Northwest Florida, but I like a fresh fight. I've been helping the folks in McCulloch County a good bit. They've just really twisted in the wind over there. It's a mess. But as Barbara said, we're the only area in the state of Florida that sent people to prison for sunshine law violations. Now, that tells me two things. One, those two were probably accidental, and two, nobody in the rest of the state will even prosecute on that when they should, because that's what our problem is. That's what our problem is today, is lack of prosecution. But look, we need soldiers in this fight, folks. They're taking over, okay? Anybody ever been to sunbiz.org? State of Florida. Know what it is? Okay. Look, when somebody shows up new in my county and they want to run for office, or they want to do this, or they want to do that, I look them up on sunbiz.org. Then I cross-reference them to Corporation Wiki. You'll learn a lot. Take those tools and use those tools. You will find some, well, I call them unholy alliances you will find quite often. You will find a county commissioner who, although he is touting he is absolutely against this landfill over here, he's in partners with the LLC that owns the landfill. That's what you'll find. You have to dig in. This is, I like to say this is not for the faint of heart, but it's fun. It's your community. You need to dig in, and we've had a long run here. We've got a few scars on our backs about it, but I want to very quickly go over a few things. See this one up here at the top? Santa Rosa FBI probe. I'm kind of proud of that one. That's public records, folks. The FBI took an interest because they saw a lot of good newspaper stories prior to this one. This one had just recently happened. Barbara got involved in that when I was shoving with a stick every chance I got. This is Crestview City Council, and I read some of those emails. I will guarantee you, without a shadow of a doubt, they violated the sunshine law. They sending emails back and forth. Hey, I'm going to call a special meeting. Hey, okay, you make the motion this way. Hey, okay, well, the three of us will vote that way. Okay. They violated sunshine, but I want to make a point on this. I want to read this. State Attorney Bill Edens said the violation, while considered a serious matter, indicated no corrupt intent on the part of the council members. It appeared to be a lack of education and understanding of the rules, he said. I'm hopeful the council will obtain additional sunshine law training and not communicate by email in the future. Not only Mr. Bill Edens, but every state attorney in the state of Florida just loves to say they didn't mean to do it. They'll do better from now on. Okay? Barbara mentioned Team Santa Rosa violating the sunshine law 9 ways to Sunday. We found some historical documents that the executive director of Team Santa Rosa, under sworn deposition, said in 2002, yes, I understand the sunshine law. She was in Escambia County. She was the one that threw W.D. Childers under the bus. I know what it is. I know how it works. And yes, it's been violated. She moved to my county and she violated it for 8 more years. I had to take her to the state attorney's office and finally fight through all that. If you think the state attorney, now there's many fine people that work for state attorneys, but if you think the state attorney specifically is going to jump out there and help you with an elected official, dream on. Santa Rosa County, top 10 stories. You gotta love this one. Dr. N.J. was raided by the DEA. That was all public record, somewhat involved in that. Number 4, federal subpoenas issued in Santa Rosa County, folks. Those 4 FBI subpoenas came about because of public record. Story number 3, The feds went to one of my county commissioners' house and business and stayed there for 9 hours, and I don't think they're finished with it yet. Team Santa Rosa contract was questioned. Team extension rejected. You heard us talking about that. Our head of economic development, she was problematic. March 31st, we got a few more days, Alan. She will no longer be employed in Santa Rosa County. Public records sunk her boat. When she sends emails around that says things like, we really need to get off the server because the sunshine law is problematic for us. Okay. Maritime Park lawsuit was one of the other stories. A lot of public records involved in that. Tourism email. Now, the state attorney should have charged those guys too. But due to public records, people getting those emails, it brought to attention, and the news media ate that thing up, where they tried to steal the tourism dollars from the TDC, which is owned by the state. They were trying to start I guess a phantom group and spend the money any way they wanted to. That's the importance of public records. And here is our Santa Rosa officials. And to be quite honest with you, I'm very ashamed of this picture right here, and I hope one day that they get their smile wiped off of their face. That's my county attorney, and that's Miss Anderson, who is standing in front of a federal courthouse turning over records related to the 4 FBI subpoenas, and they're both smiling like it's funny. But all of this generated because of public records. Got a school board superintendent. He calls his principals in and he says, everybody, I need 100 of you to get 30 petition cards apiece. You know, he tells them which way to vote. Takes up dollars on school property. This was found out because of public records. And here's the story. Of course, he pleads that he follows the rules, but the FBI, and that was all because of public records. If we didn't have the public records, and it wasn't just Alan and I, there was other people that were digging in. We got some folks to help us to make sure that we got those records. But these things, it's just so vastly important that we take the time and make sure that we get all those records. And then one more thing, and I'm going to put this forward. I want y'all to take a look at that. This was ran in the Tallahassee newspaper. This was an advertisement, okay? The FBI is out there asking for your help, folks. I'm telling you right now, your public records are going to take you a long ways. Dig in, dig in, dig in, dig in. But for the honest to goodness prosecution of what I believe, I take a very this patty caking and nobody ever getting criminal charges against them. I'm kind of done with that, and I'm glad to see the FBI is moving in. I understand they're pretty solid across the panhandle right now, but they can certainly be an advocate for you. And so when you're going through these public records and you find these things, take your citizens' efforts and help them out, because that's what their job is for. I want to see people go to prison. I believe that serious long stints in the federal penitentiary, including some of them in Tallahassee, Florida, that proclaim to be public servants, will go a long ways into stopping some of the stuff that's going on right now. But dig in. If you want to talk to me after it, I would love to help any of you, and I appreciate your time.
I think the real issue in our state is not our government, but it's actually our reporters and our newspapers. Because my first year in the battle, I spent $26,000 of my own personal money getting the knowledge out there. $26,000 I didn't have to give. I started my own newspaper, I started my own television show, and that's how I got the word out. because I couldn't get reporters to even return my calls.
You want my business card?
I probably need to. How do we, as a First Amendment Foundation or the Association of News Editors, and I'm sorry I can't remember your titles, but how do we get the newspapers to take an interest in this stuff? Because if the FBI finally gets involved in finding out $170,000 grants went to board members, and we bought a $3.2 million piece of land that was only worth $900,000, and we flew the commissioners over to the private islands that these developers owned, and we can't get the newspapers to report on that stuff, how do we get them to take on this task?
But what are you talking about? The Pensacola News Journal?
That's one of them.
And what other ones in your area?
Yeah. You've got Navarre Press, who's actually a member of the First Amendment Foundation's board.
You have Navarre, you have the Norfolk Florida Daily News, and then Panama City, right?
Right. And most of them are all owned by one organization.
Yeah,
Gannett or
Freedom,
the other.
right?
Freedom Press and Gannett.
And then it's Escambia. For the record, I don't know anybody in Escambia. I want to know where they're at. They just hired an investigator for a full, I don't know if you guys want to call this person or not.
One just left though too, Jamie Page, which is actually pretty.
But it is, it's my biggest heartache is the public not being aware. I mean, it's simply where a commissioner will get up there and lie. You know, we have the Geo prison. You probably have heard about it coming in. The commissioner got in there and lied and said, we're going to get tax revenue on that. I stood up and said, no, I got your email. Your email says the state's going to buy the land. I actually, because I have my real estate license, I actually helped get the right-of-ways for the Geo prison. I was for the Geo prison coming in. What I'm against is people lying. I take that to the Pensacola News Journal, that's not important. It is important. You're telling us this project is going to get us hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax revenue when we know it's not. It's not in the cards where the state's going to buy this land. And when they won't take this stuff on, it's frustrating for me.
And TV, there's no TV station or radio station?
We don't have a TV station. They have WAR-TV.
They do some good stories on weeds in the media.
Yeah, I mean, it's serious. We have I love reading the Tampa stories and the Miami stories, and I'm thinking, but at the same token, you have a lot more staff in these big cities. When you get into a county, you know, like ours.
Do you have a website where you're putting up the public records you fund?
Oh yeah, we've
SantaRosaSpeaks.com.
We did this last year at University of South Florida and decided that we would move it around the state, trying to get more people in touch with open government and move the celebration of Sunshine Week. As Dennis said, Sunshine Week, it was actually Sunshine Sunday. It was 10 years ago. The Florida Society of News Editors was sort of bemoaning the fact that citizens, it was a sort of a lack of understanding about sunshine and why it was important to the public. Everybody thinks of the public records law as the tool that the media uses, that the reporters use, but in fact, statistics show that more public records requests are made by corporations and citizens than are made by reporters. And this really is the citizen's right of access. We were also sort of whining about the erosion of sunshine in the state of Florida. Florida has one of the oldest public records laws in the country. It was first codified in 1909. Before that, the courts recognized a common law right of access. And under our law, only the legislature can create exemptions to the right of access. In 1992, on the ballot in the general election, we had a provision that guaranteed us a right, a constitutional right, to the records of all three branches of state government. That in itself is unique in this country, but embedded in that constitutional provision is a standard for the creation of new exemptions, and it says only the legislature can create exemptions. That's, Pat and I were talking about on the drive down from Tallahassee. Somebody wanted to know if other states, there are other states that limit that right to the legislature. I didn't know the answer to that, but I know that most states allow for a balancing of interests. In Washington State, for example, there are only 6 or 9 exemptions to the state public records law, but allows the custodian, the government agency or the government officer or the government employee to decide whether you get access or not, because they get to balance interests. In Florida, all records are public records subject to disclosure absent a specific statutory exemption. Now, I always say that's the good news. There are over 1,000 exemptions to the public records law and the open meetings law combined. Last count, there were 1,084 exemptions. And it was 1985, I think, Pat, when we first started printing the government, the Sunshine Manual, 1984. I have the copies all the way back. This is the Sunshine Manual. This is John's copy, 2002. It came out less than a month ago. You can already see that it's all marked up and the pages are all bent and the cover's all nasty. That's how much he uses the manual. It is nasty. It's all bent up. In 1985, we had only 250 exemptions to the public records law and the open meetings law combined. Today we have 1,084. The legislature, which ended on Friday night, thankfully created another 7 new exemptions. So these are exceptions to our right of access. But it is different here, as I said, because there's no balancing of interests allowed. Not even the court can balance interests. We could have a citizen who writes a county commissioner and then tries to assert confidentiality on that letter. The letter written to the commissioner is a public record subject to disclosure regardless of what the author of the letter wants, unless there is a specific statutory exemption. So that sets us apart in Florida. In preparation for Sunshine Week, we do all sorts of things. We usually do an audit. We didn't do an audit this year because they take a lot of time. And our legislative session is usually starting about the same time as Sunshine Week. This year, because of reapportionments, session started the second week in January and ended Friday. So I've been like, the woman with hair on fire for the last 2 months, because it's my job to track all of the open government bills as they make their way through the process. This year I had 87 bills on my tracking list, and that's a small number in comparison. I usually have about 130 to 160 bills. I think they were worrying about reapportionment in the budget and the absolute immunity and privatization of prisons and the Parent Trigger Bill. So they were too worried about other things to try to create new exemptions this year.